Did you know that right now you're hurtling through space at nearly 1,700 kilometers per hour? You don't feel it because everything around you, the ground, the oceans, even the air you're breathing is moving right along with you. But what if it all came to a sudden, grinding halt? It would be like being in a car, traveling at that same incredible speed and slamming into a brick wall. No, imagine that happening to every single person, building, and drop of water on the planet. The end of Earth's spin wouldn't just be a bad day. It would be the end of everything as we know it, starting with a wave of destruction that's almost impossible to fully comprehend. Section 1. The Great Scoring. If the Earth slammed on the brakes, one simple law of physics would become our worst enemy, inertia. While the solid planet would suddenly be still, everything not bolted down to the bedrock would keep moving eastward at its original speed. At the equator, that's a velocity of about 1,674 kilometers per hour, faster than the speed of sound. People, animals, trees, buildings, and even the topsoil would be instantly launched sideways in a horrifying global cataclysm. The atmosphere itself would still be in motion, turning into a planet-wide wind that would scour the continents clean. This supersonic blast would generate gusts far more powerful than any hurricane ever recorded, pulverizing everything in its path and eroding the very surface of the earth. In that first terrible moment, your only hope would depend on where you are. Near the poles, the rotational speed is almost zero, so, theoretically, someone at a research station in the high Arctic or Antarctica might witness the apocalypse without being immediately swept off their feet, but for almost everyone else it would all be over in an instant. Section 2. A world drowned and shaken, and that initial devastating jolt is just the beginning. The world's oceans, holding colossal momentum, wouldn't stop with the planet. They would surge eastward in the largest tsunami imaginable, a wall of water kilometers high that would wash over entire continents. Coastlines would vanish, with water sweeping miles inland before finally crashing against mountain ranges. The sheer force of this sudden stop would also send shockwaves deep into the planet. The Earth's crust would likely fracture under the immense stress, triggering earthquakes of unimaginable magnitude and causing widespread volcanic eruptions. The friction between the planet's layers, the crust, mantle, and core, all stopping at different rates, would generate a phenomenal amount of heat, potentially melting parts of the crust from below. The sky would become a chaotic mess of lightning and storms, choked with debris and the moisture from vaporized oceans. In short, the surface of the Earth would be transformed into an uninhabitable hellscape of supersonic winds, globe-spanning tsunamis, and non-stop earthquakes. Section 3. The Aftermath. A year-long day. What about those few hypothetical survivors huddled near the poles? The world they'd wake up to would be completely alien. With no daily rotation, our concept of a day would now be tied to Earth's orbit around the sun. This means one side of the planet would face the sun for 6 long months, while the other would be plunged into a 6 month night. The side facing the sun would bake under its relentless, unfiltered glare. Temperatures would soar, boiling away any remaining surface water and turning vast stretches of the planet into a scorched desert, hotter than anything we experience today. On the other side, the half year of darkness would cause temperatures to plummet to Arctic extremes, freezing everything solid in a dark frigid wasteland. Life as we know it is built on a 2-4 hour cycle. This brutal new rhythm of 6 months of light and 6 months of dark would cause a total collapse of global ecosystems, as plants and the food chains that depend on them would perish. Section 4. A slow grinding halt. A sudden stop makes for a dramatic end, but what if it happened differently? What if the Earth's spin didn't stop on a dime, but gradually slowed down over millions of years? This scenario isn't a violent explosion, but a slow, agonizing transformation into a strange new world. At first, the days would just get longer, throwing our internal biological clocks completely out of sync. But the most profound change would happen to the very shape of our planet. Earth isn't a perfect sphere. Its rotation causes it to bulge at the equator. As the spin slowed, that force would weaken, and gravity would pull the planet into a more perfect spherical shape. All that water held in the equatorial bulge would have nowhere to go but toward the poles. It's a mind-bending idea that the very geography of our world would begin to shift. Section 5. The birth of a new world. Over time, this slow migration of water would create a planet that we wouldn't recognize. The oceans would drain from the equator, revealing a massive, continuous strip of land, a new supercontinent wrapping around the planet's waist. At the same time, the water would flood the higher latitudes, creating two enormous polar oceans. In this new world, places like northern Canada, Siberia, and most of Europe would be permanently underwater. Antarctica would be swallowed by the southern polar ocean. Meanwhile, the floors of the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans near the equator would become dry land, creating a vast continental bridge connecting the Americas, Africa, and Asia. As the spin continued to slow, weather patterns we depend on, like hurricanes and trade winds, would weaken and eventually disappear. Climate systems would be fundamentally altered, turning rainforests into deserts and triggering mass extinctions as countless species fail to adapt. Section 6. The twilight zone. Eventually, the Earth could become tidally locked with the Sun, meaning one side would permanently face the Sun while the other would be trapped in eternal darkness. The sun-facing side would be a scorched desert, and the dark side a frozen ice cap. Could anyone survive this? The only potentially habitable area would be the Terminator Zone, a narrow strip of perpetual twilight between the searing day and freezing night. Here, temperatures might be just right for liquid water. Humanity's last remnants would have to become a migratory species, constantly on the move to stay within this sliver of habitable land. But there would be another, even bigger threat. Earth's rotation is a key ingredient in generating its magnetic field, a protective shield against deadly solar radiation. As the rotation slowed and stopped, that shield would weaken and collapse. Without it, the sun's solar wind would strip away our atmosphere, much like what happened to Mars billions of years ago. The surface would be bombarded with lethal radiation, making any long-term survival, even in the twilight zone, practically impossible. So, whether it's a sudden cataclysmic jolt or a slow, grinding transformation, the end of Earth's spin would spell our doom. It's a terrifying thought experiment that shows just how much our world is shaped, its climate, and all of its life depends on this constant, silent motion we take for granted. But before you start to worry, you can rest easy. NASA has stated the probability of Earth's spin stopping in the next few billion years is practically zero. The Earth's rotation is, in fact, slowing down due to the gentle tug of the Moon's gravity, but at an incredibly slow rate. Our day is only getting longer by about 1.7 to 2.3 milliseconds each century. So, while it's a wild scenario to imagine our planet is going to keep on spinning for a very, very long time,